co-host as soon as possible. Hey, Brent.
Hey.
Should we tweet out that we're live? Yeah, I had some issues today with Twitter, so couldn't really. They don't like it when you change videos. And let me do this. I'm in my studio and I got stuff everywhere. Hi there. Brent, did you want to make them a co-host? If you there's a microphone icon, the lower left-hand side. If you could go ahead and grab that. Request. Then I think Jen, Jen's here too. So if you could request a microphone in the bottom of the screen. So at the bottom of the screen on the left-hand side, you're going to see an icon that is a microphone icon. You should hit that. It would either request it or because you don't have the microphone all because you both all are in listener mode. And you should also make sure your phone is updated. If it's not updated, it won't work. And and to be able to speak, you have to be on a phone, like a mobile phone, Android or iOS, because it won't work on a desktop unless you have a special app or something. So why don't we I'm going to go ahead and tweet out that we're live, and I'm going to try to figure out how we can get you on we call it the stage here. And Brent, do you have anything that we need to pin up on the nest?
What, Tonya? I don't know yet.
So I think let me look on the DM and see if anybody has a problem grabbing the microphone. Brent, can you look at the DM?
Yes, Tonya, what about it?
I think someone needs to be the other co-host. Yeah, no worries. Like, don't worry. We've all experienced this type before. The first space is the hardest. But don't worry, you guys are in good hands because between Brent and I, we have been doing spaces since, I don't know, myself, it's been February of last year. So, and I literally have been on space all the time. It's kind of addicting, but it's a fantastic platform to share your story and talk about what's going on, anything that you're having, any type of campaign like this. This is fantastic. This is great space for you to host. A Twitter space would be fantastic for your brand and also for the campaign. I love the fact that you guys utilize social media for your challenge. That's and that hashtag is really good. Actually, let me go ahead and put the hashtag up there. It'd be kind of cool if you guys on your website, there's actually this widget you can install where it can feature different people using the hashtag and kind of like show the social aspect of it for your awareness, especially that you're promoting it on all your social networks. Because I looked at your Facebook page too. So I'm just gonna share some of your videos. I think there's one from Royal Talks. Join the Royal Mental Hygiene Challenge, March 1st through the 31st. I'm gonna cancel invite so that this way they shouldn't have a problem. I'm gonna cancel both invite, cancel, and cancel. There we go. And then what you can do is just request a mic from your end. So Brent, so while we're waiting for them, how is your day going?
It's going well, Tonya. How about you?
It was good. Today's Wednesday. Wednesday is my streaming day. Let me. Here we go. I think this is gonna work. You got the mic.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yay.
Sorry about that. I had to delete my Twitter. I had to like shut down my Twitter app and re-download it to log in and all that stuff. So,
It's been a while since you used Twitter. Then.
yeah, I've got another account, but we decided to go through the Royals official Twitter feed. So here we are. Sorry for the delay, folks. I apologize for that.
Should we get started, Tonya?
Yes. Go ahead. We've been live streaming, so I'll edit later. Did you want me to do the opening remarks, or you want to do the opening remark, Brent?
You can, Tonya.
Well, hi everybody. Welcome to tonight's space. As you know, Wednesday night is the night that hosts a Twitter space, and this week we're going to be chatting with the mental hygiene challenge. Is what we're talking about. I wanted to talk more about the mission of the Royal Mental Hygiene Challenge, and it's interesting how the initiative, because if you look at it and you think about what is needed nowadays more than ever, so I'm thrilled to have their organization is here. And didn't we have another guest also?
I think I'm going to be mostly speaking to our challenge for this evening. So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what do you do?
So my name is Guillaume Tremblay. I'm a nurse practitioner by occupation. I work for the Royal Ottawa Healthcare Group, or the Royal Ottawa Mental Health Center. I work mostly out of the Brockville site, and basically we've decided as an organization, with the help of the communication team and Michaela Berniquez, Andrea Tompkins, Jennifer Sanger, to kind of put together a mental hygiene campaign in terms of promoting awareness about what mental hygiene is all about, why it's important, and we're really happy to be speaking about it tonight with you both.
Well, I'm happy to be promoting this challenge, and also happy that I suggested to offer the Twitter space.
Yeah, no, this is definitely an interesting way to discuss this. It's like we've had a few technology knickknacks this evening, but we're here to talk about it, and definitely excited about it. You know, mental hygiene is a concept that we're trying to put out there. We built the framework and published about a year ago. It was Nicole Rodriguez, Dr. Sanjeev Gulati, and myself that had put the idea together and managed to put into a framework that we were able to publish in a peer-reviewed journal for health promotion. And really, it's a very simple idea that we need to start changing the way we perceive the maintenance of our mental health. In other words, we do other things to maintain our health on a daily basis. So, for example, very simple thing is we brush our teeth every day. We shower every day. We're encouraged to go for a couple of walks to maintain our physical activity. We don't really have equivalents in terms of mental health and how to have daily maintenance. So most of the time when we talk about mental health, it's more like an interventional basis. If we're depressed, we're anxious, then we need to seek help. And those are all very good things, but we want to come at it from looking at our mental health from a hygienic perspective, meaning practices or conditions that are conducive to health or preventative maintenance. And therefore, we wanted to build an idea that we really look at it from a day-to-day maintenance. In other words, we don't brush our teeth only when we're on a good day or a bad day. We brush our teeth good days and bad days. Well, we want to start encouraging people to look at their mental health in the same way that we take care of our minds and our brains on a daily basis, just like we would any other hygienic practice.
Yes, because we know that hygiene is very important, and so is mental health and self-care.
Yeah, and there is a lot, you know, some of the idea behind it as well is that we all share a similar tendency. So for example, in terms of dental health, we all share the issue that we all build plaque, and therefore every so often we go to the dental hygienist, which scrapes the plaque off, and we all share that common feature that we develop plaque on our teeth, and we need to minimize that development of the plaque by brushing our teeth on a regular basis. So we kind of collectively understand this. Well, our minds, we also share a similar problem together. Now, everybody has individualized challenges and issues, so this is not to minimize or to reduce the uniqueness of everybody's challenge. It's certainly everybody is very unique in that sense. But we do, on the other hand, have a commonality where we all share the same challenge of that we think too much, excessive thinking of whatever, the future, the past, in a non-practical way. So we're not talking about thoughts that are useful, that provide us, let's say, planning for the future with a calendar, practical thoughts like such that can be helpful. We're talking about the blah, 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 the mind chatter. People call it the hamster running in your head, the monkey mind. There's lots of ways to create terms for this.
Oh,
and we
so
also,
you're talking about the stuff that we overly overly stress about. That's like future stuff.
yeah, that's definitely one feature of it. So when we talk about sort of excessive thinking, it's a very generalized term in terms of saying, yeah, worrying about the future or thinking too much about the past, or another word is ruminating, having the same thought going through a head over and over again, or mind wandering too much when our mind goes somewhere else too often. Or the other kind of fancy terminology is self-referential narrative, meaning when we talk to ourselves about ourselves all day. Now, I'm just trying to put those terms out there to try to normalize a little bit that it's something that we all kind of do. And we do it to different degrees, but it's something we all kind of share. Like it's, you know, a ubiquitous pattern that occurs with all of us. And what we're trying to say with this framework is just like, it's not to be scared of it or to say it's a bad thing. Like, you know, I got some dental plaque on my teeth right now, and my mind, you know, will go here and there and have a little bit of too much thinking, and that's okay. It's a part of it. But when it becomes excessive, we do have a lot of evidence that it can put us more vulnerable to mental health challenges like anxiety and depression and so on and so forth. And what we're really advocating here is that this is not about intervening on our mental health. This is about seeing our mental health in terms of taking care of it on an ongoing, lifelong basis. It's not something, for example, I go through a hard time, I see a counselor, they tell me, try this technique, try that, take care of this, take care of that, and I start feeling better, and then I'm done. Well, although that can be very good in certain circumstances, we're coming at it from a hygienic perspective. It's like,
but I think that like people seek mental health support and think that it's a one-time occurrence, but then they realize that it's not.
well, that's a great point, Brent. That's exactly kind of the what we're trying to get at. I think you're capturing what we're trying to say, and that again we go back to the hygiene analogy a lot because we call it mental hygiene, and it's kind of a useful trick or useful analogy to communicate this concept. But for example, I'm in my 30s. Well, when I'm in my 60s, 30 years from now, am I going to say, well, I've been brushing my teeth for 60 plus years. I think I'm done. I've done a good job. I put in 60 years of teeth brushing. I've had enough.
No,
that's
you're going to be brushing your teeth for as long as you live.
Exactly. And we're saying it's a similar concept with mental health. We need to develop daily habitual patterns where we give a certain amount of time and dedication in a practical way in order to maintain our mental health as a lifelong process, mental hygiene. And this awareness campaign that we're trying to promote through this current discussion here is really about raising awareness that this is about doing little things on a daily basis to maintain our mental health, to sort of a grassroots movement of people taking ownership of their mental health by doing good daily habits that support their mental health and on an ongoing basis, and not necessarily just for a certain period of time.
I think that makes so much sense, because if you think about it, I mean, everything we do, our goal in life is really just is about subconscious level of thinking. You know, when you brush your teeth in the morning, it's a subconscious level of thinking. You don't think about it, you just wake up, you brush your teeth. I think if we practice this as utilizing the concept of mental hygiene, um, this challenge makes a lot of sense, because if you practice it for 31 days, it becomes a habit, and a habit is when you do something you subconsciously not think about it, but you do it. So you wake up in the morning, you do your breathing exercise, you practice 5 minutes of mindfulness or less. Some people, it's hard, but I tell people sometimes, like, I think you got to take first step and worry about that first step first, and worry about that first breath that you take, or your exhale, your inhale. Focus on those little steps instead of focusing on the whole concept of, you know, taking time off or just giving yourself some mental hygiene. So I think I love that. That makes so much sense. It's like, I'm surprised not too many people talk about this. I think I see that mental health challenge, but I've never seen a mental hygiene challenge.
Yeah, so I think I think it's a good point where you're saying that, you know, if you can do it 30 days in a row, which is the challenge of, you know, when you do the challenge of the 30 days, that perhaps you're starting to create the opportunity to form a habit. I mean, why do most of us brush our teeth on a daily basis? Because since we were young, people encouraged us, parents, mentors, you know.
I think the reason why we brush our teeth is because we've been doing it since we've been growing up.
Yeah, but I mean, it had to form a habit, exactly, and we've been doing since we're young. We had to form a habit, and this is what we're kind of, the campaign is to try to raise awareness about habit formation, to form a habit around your mental health and a mental hygiene habit to really take care of it. And Tonya, to your point, what we're trying to really come up with a practical approach, not just a recommendation that's not realistic. Like, obviously somebody, for example, who meditates a lot, meditates an hour in the morning, for example, that's great. That's excellent mental hygiene. That's fantastic. But if you're going to tell that as a recommendation to people, you know what? Nobody's going to do it. So we're trying to come up with a flexible model. The toolkit we've built has a lot of different approaches, not necessarily just breathing or mindfulness, although we highly encourage those. You know, journaling, pen and paper exercises, gratitude exercises, exposing yourself to nature. There's a lot of different ways to approach it. And we're basically saying 10 minutes a day is the target we want to achieve, to try to get 10 minutes a day. And even that 10 minutes a day, what we're saying is you don't even need to do it all at once. So for example, if you know you're at work and you take 2 minutes 5 times throughout your day to just mindfully breathe or jot down a couple things you're grateful for. Well, if you get your 10 minutes in 5 sessions of 2 minutes, that's, you know, really excellent mental hygiene. So 10 minutes all at once, 10 minutes spread out. It doesn't really matter whether you combine breathing and gratitude exercises or just go for a little stroll in nature and look at the trees. There's a lot of different approaches that you can do this. So, but we're trying to create it under one framework of what we call mental hygiene, in order to promote sort of a universal framework, something that applies to everyone and something that's realistic for everyone. The other piece, if I may, that I just want to touch upon is also, again, the idea that of hygiene also puts us in a realistic framework, because sometimes when we have mental health issues, especially when we're feeling low, you know, we can tend to blame ourselves or do things or have unhealthy patterns of thinking. And, you know, hygiene, for example, I you know, had a couple of cavities fixed a few months ago. Okay. So, but I brush my teeth twice a day, but I still got cavities. Okay. So hygiene is about creating conditions that provides a general improvement or a general elevation of health and well-being. So obviously my dental health wouldn't be as good if I didn't brush my teeth every day, but I still got cavities. So we're not saying here that mental hygiene is the perfect antidote and fix to everything, but certainly if we do engage our mental hygiene, yeah, we can still have mental health challenges. People might still have issues of depression. These things can still happen, but they're not a reflection of somebody who's not doing a good job. It's not nothing like that. It's just these things can still happen. But overall, you create conditions that are more conducive to a good mental health. And we want to kind of, because, you know, we don't want people to feel that this is, you know, a framework that creates the perfect answer. Again, like another easy analogy is the idea sometimes, you know, not to disparage meditation programs, but sometimes they can be shared with a framework that's maybe over too much expectations around them, you know, like fix your life in 12 weeks kind of thing, which is not what we're here to talk about. So to bring the same analogy, you know, if I'm having challenges in my life, you know, marital issues or something, well, I'm not going to fix those necessarily by just showering and brushing my teeth. But I'll tell you, it'll be a lot harder to deal with those challenges if I don't brush my teeth and I don't shower. And we see the same thing. Mental hygiene doesn't necessarily remove all the challenges of life. Challenges will come no matter what. But it puts us in a position to be perhaps a bit more resilient, a bit more robust. And I truly believe that if collectively we really take mental hygiene as an important step in the right direction in terms of a grassroots movement, everybody beginning to really take care of their mental health in the form of daily mental hygiene, then we'll become a healthier society and we'll be able to deal with our challenges with a bit more ease and more well-being and less suffering. And that's really what we're all about. This is about improving, increasing well-being, decreasing suffering, and trying to find a way to live the good life.
Well, as a mental health advocate, I'm very interested in taking part in this challenge and have already decided to.
I'm really happy to hear that, and you know, your interest in this campaign and this group, you know, is really appreciated. You know, we're trying to look for every opportunity to put the word out to get people interested, and again, trying to find a universal language for how we can talk about this in a way that is applicable to everyone. So again, it's like it's like asking the question. The question, for example, I'm going to ask an absurd question here, Brent, but like, you know, is it more important for you or for me to shower? You know, it's an absurd question. It's a silly question. It doesn't even make sense because it's obviously important for both of us. Well, we're coming with the same idea with mental hygiene.
Well, then here's my other analogy that if I'm concerned about my mental health, then I'm also concerned about someone else's mental health that is afraid.
Yeah, you know, no, for sure. And I think when we have a tendency to take care of ourselves, it gives us, I think, even more resources to give a hand to other folks that might be going through challenging times. So, you know, human flourishing. This is what we want to try to encourage in every little way we can. And I think the team around this certainly believes in this concept that if we promote it and get people to buy into the concept of habit formation, and really as a public health measure, like, again, I'll just return to some of these standard, like public health recommendations. There are official there are official health recommendations out there. For example, the Canadian Dental Association will say, we recommend to the public to brush your teeth 2 minutes twice a day, every day. Okay. The Canadian Sleep Society will say for sleep hygiene, you should have 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night and avoid nicotine, alcohol, and tobacco before bed. Sorry, nicotine is tobacco. Alcohol, nicotine, and caffeine before bed. The World Health Organization, the CDC, Health Canada, they all say 150 minutes of moderate physical activity per week is sort of a minimum standard to try to achieve in order to maintain physical health. However, at this time, we don't have an equivalent sort of recommendation vis-a-vis mental health, for mental health, really. So we're trying to come up with a framework that is universal and that everybody can kind of get on board, and hopefully get to a point one day where mental hygiene becomes a well-known, well-accepted public health official public health recommendation. So that's kind of, one of the goals we want to aim for.
But I'm sure for the last 2 years you've seen lots of mental health issues come your way.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a bummer of this whole pandemic response, or what's sort of taking place with more social isolation and social distancing. We see, unfortunately, rates of depression and anxiety going up. I think drug overdoses have gone up. Suicide rates have also gone up. That's kind of a sad, unfortunate repercussion of our times that we have to contend with and face together collectively with as much sort of clarity and honesty as we can, and support each other as best we can. And one thing that we're kind of proud of with the mental hygiene framework is that it kind of supports a bit of a social justice perspective, in that this is meant to be accessible to everybody. Okay, right now, some of the tricks that we try to share in the toolkit, sometimes you'll only learn about those if, for example, you see a psychologist. Now, it's very important to see a psychologist when you need that kind of help. They're excellent professionals. They're very skilled at what they do, and I've got friends in that profession. However, there are people out there who don't have private insurance, don't have the money to pay for these kinds of sessions. Now, luckily, the Royal and other healthcare organizations are trying to make those kinds of mental health services more and more accessible. So that is a very positive movement, and we are for sure advocating that mental health services become more and more accessible to the public. So it's not to contend with that. That's a positive movement. However, in the meantime, if we can develop toolkits for the public where anybody can access these tricks and these sort of expert guided tricks, not tricks, but or sort of recommendations for mental health, then it becomes accessible to everyone. And for those who maybe are less fortunate, can still access and develop good mental hygiene habits as well. And so we really, the goal here is accessibility as well as making it where everybody can reach for it.
Because it's important to, if you can seek help, it's important to seek help.
Yes, Brent, I'm glad you bring that up. I really don't want to overlook that important aspect. That when you're not feeling well, if you're becoming sleepless and can't sleep, and I think we got to get the help.
Some people wait until it's too late because they don't know that the resources are out there.
Yeah, that's definitely something that can happen, and I encourage everyone who feels they're going through a difficult time. There are people to reach out, and if it starts off with friends and family, and there are resources available. And I know the Royals' mission to have a hospital without walls is trying to create that sense of community where such kind of services are more and more accessible. So we definitely want people to feel that they have access to those resources, but again, when we're the kind of approach that we want to get to is it's also, it can be a fun conversation piece. It's a way to get started about, hey, how's your mental hygiene? People are like, what are you talking about, mental hygiene? What do you do every day for your mental health? It's an easy piece. Instead of like, hey, do you meditate? You do breathing techniques? It's like the languaging itself can be a barrier. Terminology barriers can be an issue for good promotion, good campaigns, even though it's a very good intention, those can be challenges. So, mental hygiene can be just sort of an easy conversation starter to talk about, hey, what do you do for your mental hygiene on a day-to-day basis? What's your mental hygiene practice? And it's like, oh, well, I don't know. What do you mean by mental hygiene? And it's a very simple concept that everybody can share. And, although right now the Royal and the team behind this is pushing this idea, the mental hygiene is a term that we hope is utilized and adopted by the masses and doesn't belong to anybody. It's a term that we hope will assist the public in terms of taking care of their mental health on a day-to-day basis, and just seeing, okay, it's hygiene, it's day-to-day, let's just do it, let's just take care of it. So, and I want to address the idea that we need to go in this direction now. Like, I want to commend and recognize the last 15, 20 years of all the folks out there who have promoted the destigmatization of mental health to the point that it's gone to a policy level of the government. A great job by all the advocates out there who have really tried to make, Bella Let's Talk. Those have been very successful campaigns to destigmatize mental health, so people aren't ashamed to share it, because that's a very, like you said, it's a first step.
But it should not be something that should just be talked about that one particular day. It should be talked about every day.
It should be exactly. It should be in a sense where every day of the year, anybody who's going through mental health challenges feels comfortable talking about it and not hiding it, and it's not like, somebody comes back from being off for 3 weeks and like, what happened to you? Like, oh my gosh, I got pneumonia. It kicked my butt, and everybody kind of laugh. It's almost like they'll it's very light. It's a light conversation, but then if someone comes off after being away for 3 weeks and, hey, what's going on? It's like, oh yeah, I went through a solid depression and I had to just be off work and just kind of regroup and see my doctor and see a psychologist and take care of my sleep and my exercise and my mental hygiene and so on and so forth. So, and it becomes, hopefully these campaigns continue with their success, that it can be just as much of a lighthearted conversation and not a stigmatized. So, but one point I want to make to just keep pushing the envelope a little bit is that, again, to use the analogy, it's like we've raised awareness about cavities, like let's be open about cavities. Do people get cavities, that it's common, that you don't have to be worried about cavities, but we haven't really taken the next step, which is, what do we do about this? What can be done to reduce the chances of developing cavities, and what can be done to promote good dental health? And this is where we're kind of stepping in. I think we're building on the shoulders of other people who have had a lot of success at destigmatizing mental health, and we're saying we want to say, okay, now what do we do about it? Okay, and it's not to say the work in terms of destigmatization is finished. It still has ways to go, but we're coming in from the perspective that we're recognizing that it's issue. There has been success in destigmatizing it, but people need to have easy, readily useful, practical access to information in terms of how they can maintain their mental health on a day-to-day basis to provide the conditions that will support good mental health.
Can you let people know how they can join the challenge in case they don't know yet?
Yes, thanks for that, Brent. We if you could come on our official Royals Twitter page, it's the Royal MHC, in other words, the Royal Mental Health Center, the Royal MHC. We will have a pinned tweet that will have the link to the sign up page. It's free. There's no obligation. It's all about, and then that will give access to the toolkit, which we will hope to create a way to make all that information also public after the challenge. So right now, but yes, there will be a pinned tweet with the link to the sign up page on the Royals Twitter feed, which is at the Royal MHC.
I know that when I seek help a number of years ago now, and still do, for a mental health issue from loss of job. And it was a very challenging experience at first, trying to build the trust with my therapist. But then, uh, after 2 or 3 sessions, then I was able to build the trust.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, therapeutic alliance with a mental health care provider is absolutely essential to making good progress in our recovery towards well-being and good mental health. And
When I'm open to sharing that, it's always good to that I can be open and willing to share.
yeah, and I think that willingness opens up the door for a lot of people who don't need to feel the need to hide the fact that maybe they do see somebody once a week to talk about their mental health challenges. You know, it opens up the current. Again, the idea is like nobody hides it when they caught pneumonia. They kind of might even joke about it a little bit, their friends. But when we get into like the idea of having mental health challenges, then it seems there still seems to be barriers there that are need work in terms of overcoming those barriers, that it becomes even more open, even less, no the least amount of stigmatization around it as possible, and people just being more comfortable talking about it, even when sometimes it makes people uncomfortable just to hear about it, right? Because my brother went through a pretty solid depression last year. He was off work for about 2 months or so, and then when he went back, he was super open about it. But he just commented to me that it threw people off. It's like, so what's going on? Like, are you back? Are you okay? And he's like, yeah, I had a pretty major depression there, and I just had to work through it. And he was just pretty much matter of fact, like kind of like I had a pneumonia and it really was uncomfortable and coughed a lot. And so he had a very openness, but it's still, you can see that as a society, we're still working on overcoming those barriers, because it some of his colleagues were like, whoa, didn't know what to say, didn't know how to respond, even though it's saying, oh, okay, well, I'm glad you're working through it, and it's glad you're back, and thanks for sharing that with me, like just being super kind of relaxed about it. So I would say, Brent, your openness to share your challenges, and the fact that you've worked through some of these mental health sort of challenges would be, it's a gift for other people to be open about it. And I think the more people are just open and kind of matter of fact about it, the healthier we're going to be collectively as we progress as a society.
I think if we're able to deal with our mental health, it will make us live longer. Because I believe in longevity.
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. A little bit outside the purview of mental hygiene, but I think some people, there's some scientists out there that kind of are trying to study the effect of cortisone and stress on our physiology, and I think the jury's out, personally, from my perspective. But I think when I sometimes talk about mental hygiene, I like to look at it very simple model, which is we want to find a practical way to fundamentally increase our well-being and decrease our suffering. Now, when I talk about the word suffering, I don't necessarily mean the worst day of our lives or something very tragic happening and we're suffering deeply, although that counts certainly too, but kind of like a spectrum or different gradient of suffering. Like, I use that same word, suffering, across the board. So just even a little bit of anxiety that day, or feeling anxious and worried about a little something that day, is sort of a form of suffering. And so the question we need to ask ourselves collectively and individually is, how can we fundamentally, in a practical, realistic way, fundamentally decrease our suffering and increase our well-being? And really, any fundamental shift in that direction is a huge win. Like, if somebody can fundamentally say, I really feel 2% better in my well-being and 2% less in my suffering, that's a big win. Like, so this is where we're going in terms of what we want to do with mental hygiene. Is it the be all and end all perfection? No, but it's a step in the direction of looking at how we can practically and realistically increase our well-being and decrease our suffering, and just try our best to live the good life in the best way we can and have the means to.
But I think it's just that we need to educate people more that there are resources, and there are people that they can trust to reach out to.
Yeah, like I think in 2012, I think there was the Canada's mental health strategy was published by I forget which organization off the top of my head, but it was a pretty extensive document that was meant to bring different stakeholders together and about different strategies to affect policy in Canada for addressing mental health. And greater access to mental health services was at the top of the priority. And I think that we've seen some success and the Royal has successfully decreased some of its waiting time for access to mental health services. So things are improving in this direction. Like you said, Brent, there are resources and there are ways to access those and get the help you need if you need it. And so we certainly want to make people aware of that as well.
So I'm on your website. You guys have a lot of resources. The royal.ca. You have a lot.
Yeah, I mean, like again, our CEO Joanne Bezovet's vision is a hospital without walls. So although we have buildings at the Brockville Mental Health Center and buildings in Ottawa, in various satellite sites, really the goal is that this organization extends beyond the buildings and offers support for the mental health of everyone, really. And I think the Royals' support of this campaign is a reflection of that they are been supportive from the beginning about this whole concept and giving us the help and the resources we need to have this campaign. And it's a reflection of its culture. So yeah, like there's a lot of resources out there, and I invite everybody to check out the royal.ca.
So much in one site, like especially the self-management online tools and resources, all the different apps. Like I didn't even know there's that many apps, and there's stuff for coping and resilience during COVID. I mean, that's really good too. And virtual addiction counseling. Wow, I've never heard of this before either.
Yeah, and please spread the word about that. The royal.ca has a lot of good resources in one place that you can access. So we really want people to be aware of those and that there's different ways to come at this. And some of the stuff that we put in the toolkit in terms of mental hygiene, we don't want to give the impression it's a definitive sort of list of what constitutes mental hygiene. Mental hygiene is different ways to basically support your mental health on a daily basis in an intentional fashion. So, for example, if you access some of these how to build resilience in the midst of COVID-19, some of these resources on the Royals website, and you sort of implement some of those tools, those recommendations that the Royal puts out there on a day-to-day basis, well, hey, good job. You're doing great with your mental hygiene. You know what I mean? And that's what we're calling it, is if you're taking care of your brain and your mind on a routine day-to-day basis with sort of validated approaches or generally good approaches, that's great mental hygiene. And so the Royal has a lot of good stuff. And for those who are going through more challenging times, there's also a lot of information on how to access help and resources.
So can you explain a little bit about what's entailed in the challenge?
Yeah, so the challenge, thanks for that question. It's nice to to be able to give a bit more detail about this. So yeah, the basic concept is very simple. We're challenging anybody who signs up to do 10 minutes a day of mental hygiene throughout the month of March. So for those every day of the month of March, the challenge is to do 10 minutes a day of sort of a deliberately taking the time to do something or a practice that is good for your mental health. And so we have laid out a toolkit with multiple practices. For example, gratitude exercises. If you take the time to write 3 things that you're grateful for, and then take a moment to reread those and really kind of feel a bit of gratitude, a bit of appreciation for those 3 things you wrote down. And that takes you 5 minutes. And then maybe after that, you kind of sit with your cup of coffee and watch the birds eat from your bird feeder, and really breathe focused and feel the cup in your hands and be very mindful for 5 minutes. Well, then you've put in your 10 minutes of mental hygiene that day. Well done, you know? So we give different toolkits, and we don't say it's one or the other. You can use any of the different approaches. If people want to personalize those approaches and kind of put their own twist to it, we invite that as well. This is not a rigid approach. We're just saying we're challenging the public here to put 10 minutes a day dedicated specifically to their mental health. And we're calling that mental hygiene. So 10 minutes of mental hygiene a day throughout the month of March is the challenge that we're putting out there to the public.
And how can people get in touch with you or the mental health center?
Well, I encourage, I think the royal.ca gives different avenues to access different professionals. I think we'll be also checking I think from accessing me directly, I guess that would be through the Royal, and it has all my information, and certainly people want to reach out, we're welcoming them too. Another thing I would like to just mention also is that when people sign up for the challenge, it gives access to resources, to the toolkit, like I've mentioned. There will be a few interactive features along the way, and calendars to help people track their progress. So we're offering a lot of different sort of interactive tools to really engage this challenge of doing 10 minutes a day. And also, one thing that we're kind of putting out there that we really, really love is there is a questionnaire before and after, sort of a very quick, brief, anonymous sort of little quick questionnaire, because we also want to gather data in terms of the impact of mental hygiene, and study this framework and study how it does for people. So there's a survey to do if you're willing to volunteer to do. It takes about 2 minutes to do it before the challenge starts, and then to do it after the challenge ends at the end of March. Anybody who does this is super greatly appreciated. It helps us to kind of understand what we're doing, and how we can continue to improve this framework and make it even more useful to the public. All this information is very, very valuable to us to kind of continue to improve on this model.
I would be happy to host another space as a celebration space when the challenge is over.
Oh, I like that idea. That sounds fun. I've enjoyed this. I've definitely enjoyed chit chatting. It's a bit of a new experience for me to kind of talk in this kind of forum, but I've certainly enjoyed it myself, and I agree. Having a little wrap up after the challenge to discuss how things went would be a lot of fun too. There, Brent.
Any questions, Tonya?
Well, I just want to say that Twitter Space is really good for like the pre, post, and during. Even if this is the pre one, right? And then you can actually host your own Twitter Spaces during, or maybe even do a small one like every Friday or something like during this 31-day challenge. And then what you can do is do it like afterward, and we can host one, and then you can actually do another one 30 days later, just to see where are we, have we continued doing our challenge, did the challenge become a like something we do every day without thinking of it as a challenge.
Yeah, no, those are also a lot of awesome ideas there. You know, the communication team is my they guide me in these matters, so I usually take orders from them. But so yeah, no, I think a lot of good ideas, and they were really the team behind this was really excited about this Twitter space, and I'm interested about where this goes. This is a kind of a new start to something super fun and interesting.
Well, I thank you, Gilliam, for taking time out of your busy schedule and your after hours for coming to our Twitter space along with Tonya.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on and allowing me
because
to
Tonya's mission is all about mental health and longevity and all about health related things. So if you want to learn more about health related things and longevity, just ask Tonya.
Okay, thank you very much, Tonya and Brent, for hosting this today and inviting me on and giving us the opportunity to sharing your platform so that we could promote the Mental Hygiene Challenge. And it's been very nice talking to the both of you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. When I'm done, I'll send you the link. I'll try to get it done before the first, because what I do is I take snippets. I've been doing social media since 2006, 2007, but I discovered Twitter Spaces, so it's a great way to create new content and then repurpose it. So the snippets would be like 5 minutes, 3 minutes. The maximum is 10 minutes, but I'll cut up different ones and we'll promote it out for you during your challenge.
Yeah, Tonya cuts up the audio and makes like little snippets so that we can promote it during the challenge.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, any help like that to promote the challenge would be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. And thank you, Brent. Great job. This is a great space. And again, everyone, I appreciate everyone for being here. Like I said, do something every day for yourself. First thing you wake up in the morning, take a moment, count your blessing. Try out the mental hygiene challenge. I think I've been doing it already, but I'll do another challenge. I'll do it with Brent. We can report about it.
That sounds awesome.
So that means that I have an accountability partner now, which is a good thing for mental health.
Yes, I thought I am your accountability director.
Oh, so now you're not only my co-host for Twitter Spaces, you're my accountability partner.
Yes, sir. My job is to make sure you're accountable. Okay, everybody, have a great day. I appreciate everyone for being here. And again, let's try this out and keep us posted. And make sure you use the hashtag Mental Hygiene Challenge, and we'll follow it.
Thank you, Tonya. Thank you, Brent.
Thanks
Thank you very
again,
much.
Gilliam.
Thank you, Gilliam.
Bye-bye.